Hi and welcome to a cEDH card review for Zimone and Dina, and also something of a short deck tech video as well. So this is a free mana cost sultai human druid for black, green and blue, and a free 4. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's cute, but the good ability is the activated ability. Tap it, sacrifice another creature, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process once. So I think the best part about this commander is that it's a free mana cost more green commander, which means that if you have a turn 1 Bird of Paradise or a mana dork, you can consistently have Zimone and Dina into play turn 2. With a high amount of mana dorks inside this game, we can mulligan really efficiently and effectively get this into play consistently with every mulligan opener game turn 2. And then you can start sacrificing your mana dorks and other creatures to dig through your deck and put more lands into play. And then we can utilize creatures like Bloodghast. 2 black mana, can't block landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Bloodghast from your graveyard to the battlefield. And with this, you're breaking the problem by sacrificing creatures, because this is actually not gaining value, it's just filtering through the deck. For example, if you cast a Bird of Paradise, a mana dork, and you immediately sacrifice it, you aren't really gaining anything, you're just digging through the deck. It's basically 1 green mana to draw a card. But with Bloodghast, you're gaining value, and if you have other ways to create tokens or creatures in general with this kind of similar style, then that's also creating value. Until you hit the 8 land count, then you're actually gaining value. It suddenly becomes 1 green mana, draw 2 cards. We also have this land, Minamo Schools at Water's Edge. 1 blue mana, tap it, untap target legendary permanent, so you can untap your commander here and use it again. It is a little bit sad that the green land Wirewood Lodge doesn't work, because it only untaps elves, while this is a human druid, so that's a bit sad. Could have been great. And then the natural obvious progression, the game you're going forward towards, is that you're drawing until you hit Faza's Console Tainted Pact combo and winning with this 2 card combo. Clean and simple. The best combo available, more or less. But also the absolute no-brainer ad nauseum as well. This is actually a really good ad nos commander, because you're playing a lot of lands inside this deck in general, because you wanna hit lands with this commander, so to say. So lands have a CMC value of 0, so you're digging really efficiently through them with your ad nos strategy. Lands and ad nos do actually kind of go hand in hand quite well. But there's another card we really need to highlight here, and that is Protean Hulk. Now this is a really expensive 7 mana creature. When the Protean Hulk dies, search your library for any number of creatures cards with a total converted mana cost 6 or less and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So we just need a way to kill this creature, and we have a sack outlet from the command zone, so yeah, that solves that problem. The creatures you're gonna find are Faza's Oracle and Spell Seeker. So you layered it so that Spell Seeker's ability will resolve first, while Faza's Oracle's ability is still on the stack. Search out Tainted Pact or Consult and cast Consult, and then you let the Faza's Oracle resolve after you've exiled your entire library from the game. This is going to hurt your ad nos a tiny bit, because this is a 7 mana creature, but it's still worth it. It's also a little bit of a problem, like this is a really expensive card, so you usually need to climb up the mana count to be able to afford it, but it is still more or less a 1 card combo. Actually, it's something like 8 mana, because you need to pay 1 black mana afterwards for the Consult, so yeah, that's also a problem. But considering the capability of putting lands into play and drawing cards means that you should be able to climb up to the mana count you need. But once again, we still have Faza's Oracle Consult to go for as well. So we could just draw into that instead. That's faster, cheaper mana cost. So far so good. It sounds like a great deck, right? Well, there are problems. Bloodghast is not a good card. It is a bad card. It's great with your commander, it's synergy, absolutely, but if you don't have access to your commander I mean, you're gonna have games where this happens, Draenei Magistrates and other hate bears that is shutting you off. You can't play the commander, so to say. And then Bloodghast is literally a dead card in your hand that you don't want to do anything with. There's also this blue enchantment that I know a lot of you are thinking about. Retreat to Coralhelm. Landfall. You may tap or untap target creature. Yeah! And with this and Bloodghast, we could literally draw through your entire deck. Well, as long as you have land, as long as you draw into lands, that is. Or well, once you hit that 8 land count, you're drawing 2 cards, but eventually you're gonna draw into non-lands and you're gonna get stuck. But once again, this is not that great as you might think. It's a dead card. Like, this card is actually really bad if you don't have your commander in play, if you're not doing the commander gameplay, so to say. And it's also not that, like, amazing. It's just kinda good. It's just, yeah, you're drawing a tiny bit more than usual, but still, it's not an overpowered draw card effect. This is an overpowered card draw effect. This is an overpowered card draw effect. Here's another overpowered card draw effect. A commander overpowered card draw effect. Another great, not overpowered, balanced, well, really strong card draw effect. Also really strong, decent card draw effect. In the end, truly, honestly, not a real card draw effect on its own. And when you include cards to make it into a card draw effect like the Retreat to Corhal, the Bloodghast, it actually just becomes a little bit weaker compared to the already existing overpowered card draw effects we already have in the format. So it's a straight up slight comparison. Crom Ludwig's Opus doesn't need anything to be good, like it's drawing cards for you already in a good manner, while Zimone and Dina aren't drawing cards to begin with, but once you make them draw cards with synergies, they just become equal or weaker to Crom that was already good to begin with without any effort into it. Well, you need to cast, but well, that's easy. So as a quick review, like just evaluating the commander orientated deck that we're kind of envisionizing here, a really high land count, Bloodghast, other tricks that will make this commander do synergies and make its card draw capability better, like reaching that 8 land count and then making value out of its ability, because once again you are sacrificing a creature, so you have to make your build work towards this commander, and that might mean that you're including bad cards, and now the deck is becoming a little bit clunky. So what I think we should do is try to look at the commander more towards a turbo aspect. And once again, that is Hulk, the Protean Hulk. And here we have such a deck, focused around Protean Hulk, but in general it's just a normal, typical sultai deck you would think of. We have Ad Nauseam, Tainted Pact, Thassa's Spellseeker. Malevolent Hermit is actually quite good. That is a creature you can definitely sacrifice with your commander to get it into the graveyard. Fate Stitcher, also quite amazing. We have a Hermit Druid, and then a Dread Return to reanimate Thassa's Oracle from the graveyard with its flashback caused by sacrificing 3 creatures. And look at this, we don't have a Bloodghast, and I think that's the correct choice, because this is not a commander-focused build. This is just a sultai color identity with a commander that can sacrifice the Protean Hulk from the command zone. Like, you could sit and sacrifice a few of your creatures here, but that's not the big game plan. That's something you do if nothing is going according to plan. If you're like, you need to dig through your deck and you have too much mana. Sacrifice a dork here and there is fine in that case. And look at this for an example. We have 28 lands inside this deck. If you want to see a game with this deck in actual action, then I have a gameplay video up there in the corner or in the description below of the video. If you want to take a look at how the deck is performed in actual action, played by Pontus. Now you can build it absolutely different. You can build it more towards that land creature sacrifice strategy as well. Because in the end, a lot of commanders can be built in a lot of different variations of ways. And yeah, this is absolutely one of those too. But before you do, I want to talk about a few problems that might happen when you do that. First off, you need a lot of lands. Because you need to have a land in your hand that your commander is putting into play, and that means that the ratio of lands is gonna be quite high inside the deck. We're gonna need a lot of dorks, and I mean mana dorks, 1-cost creatures that taps for mana, but we're also gonna need a lot of creatures like the Bloodghasts and creatures we can sacrifice, and maybe ways to get tokens into play so we can sacrifice those tokens. And after all of this, we can fill the card deck with all the other cards, the key cards we need as much as possible off. Because we're playing something of a mid-range game plan here. We're not trying to win fast with this kind of build, we're trying to win like a little bit later. And then we're gonna have to have interaction so that we can survive all the the turbo decks that are out there. So you're gonna need counter spells or stacks, a combination of interaction like Oppo Agent, Offie Voidwalker, great creatures here. Collect the Roof could also be a great consideration. And then we're gonna need those synergy cards. Those cards are gonna make our commander explode in more value. And then after all of that, we're also gonna need WinCon, an actual way to win the game. Don't forget about that part. And tutors to get there. And this is where Phasas and Demonic Tutor and Consult and Tainted Pact and Adnos comes into effect. But if we look at this list, like there's a lot of demand here, like a lot of space is taken away from the 99 to make this commander work. And that is a problem, because you want to have as much as possible in your 99 to make this work. I'm not saying that this is wrong or impossible and it doesn't work completely, but there are problems with it. The big reason why people are playing so few lands in cEDH currently is because the format is so turbo and fast that you really don't need that many lands. Like if you're only going to get to turn 2 and the game is over somewhere turn 2, turn 3, then you don't want more than like 2 lands in your hand. The rest should be different, more cards in form of power to perform a win for you or prevent people from winning. And when you're including more lands for this commander, that kind of hurts that strategy. It kind of goes against what the cEDH metagame is telling you to do, because you're losing interaction, so to say. Now there are decks that actually goes against what I've just said. For example, here is my Ad Nauseam Valakut deck with 49 lands, as you look at what I just highlighted. It's playing the commanders, Thrasius and Vile Smasher and Adnos in here to draw out the entire deck. But I want to emphasize and showcase why this deck makes it work. You see, it contains a lot of interaction here already, and a lot of mana and acceleration and card draw and such. The big reason why it works is because I don't need to put a lot of other filler cards inside this deck to make them work. You see, all the lands are the filler cards. Everything else is just power for a 99. I don't have any, okay, actually I do have Biomass's Familiar and a Training Ground to synergize with the Thrasius. But the deck still works. It's able to get the amount of interaction in play, and it also have a very great turbo speed. You just need to resolve that Ad Nauseam and I basically win the game. Which means I can decrease the amount of interaction and counterspells I have because I'm performing the turbo game plan, so to say here. So the deck doesn't really suffer that much by including a lot of lands. Well, you still have to think a little bit now and then on what the cards you're including in this deck to make it work. But Zimone and Dina are gonna struggle in this. They are gonna need to have a lot of lands inside the deck and then also a lot of cards to synergize with that strategy, but also doing all of that doesn't actually perform a turbo combo game plan. It is just performing a mid-range orientated game plan. And when you're on a mid-range orientated game plan, you need to increase the amount of counterspells and interaction inside that deck. The more turbo you are, the less counterspells you can play, and the more cards in the 99 rituals you can put in to increase your turbo potential. So remember this once you're starting to build that deck, so to say. The very high land count version, so to say. Now that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something. I try to make these videos very educational about what the cEDH format is all about, more or less. And to showcase why some things doesn't actually work, and why some things do work. In the end, I do think that Zimone and Dina actually work. You can make them work, but there are things to consider when you're building that deck. You have to include a few things to make them work. Regardless, take care guys, and I'll see you next time.